Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin. Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial tech entrepreneur. I've launched 30 companies, failed at 20 of those, but scaled 10 to success. And that roller coaster of a ride is part of my book called Fail Hard, Win Big. And this is where I teach you how to turn failure into your biggest competitive advantage and how custom software played a key and defining role in every win. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology. We're a custom software development shop with both US and Latin America resources. We help existing teams scale and grow. And today we have a fun guest out of his warehouse office in Silicon Valley, Akash Nigam, who is the CEO and founder of Genies. And this is going to be a fun one. Akash, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, you're a young guy. You've already founded a couple companies now. Walk us through your journey and your story.
Yeah, I mean, the journey is, it starts from when I was a kid. And I feel like when you're born and raised in Silicon Valley at Mountain View, I went to Mountain View High School, you get bitten by the bug pretty early on. It sounds cliche, but it's very true. I used to joke that everybody on my soccer team, like left forward's dad started this company, right forward's mom was this VC. And, it's just, you are born into the thick of it quite early on. And so I think, like, generally speaking, I started building stuff when I was around 15, 16 years old. And kind of similar to your intro, I think like a vast majority of the things that I have started have failed, but there have been a couple that have done actually quite well. And eventually like ended up going to University of Michigan and dropped out for the predecessor to Genies in my senior year, which was all around consumer. And so every single one of the different apps or different companies that I've started have been all rooted in how do we allow humans to be able to communicate in a much more effective way, connect with each other in a more effective way. And so the original thesis was a company called Blend, which actually did quite well. And then eventually we got really passionate about, but what is there past just photo, video, and text? Like, what is going to be the next medium of communication? And that really is predicated upon, well, what do we think is going to be the new internet? Because photo, video, and text justify comms on current internet. So when you start having that like very broad and basic thinking, it's not too difficult to get to a concept of avatars. The journey, though, over the past maybe 7 years it's been now, has really been less about do we believe that, does the general public believe that avatars are going to be a prerequisite for a method of communication, but it's more about how do you navigate your avatar concept with enough of an audience for a long enough period of time until it reaches mass interest and adoption. The good thing is that we feel like we're finally at the mass entry point, but the last 7 years have been difficult because it's not like avatars have been in huge demand up until now.
So you grew up in Silicon Valley. You've had entrepreneurs, venture capitalists all around you. Are you a software engineer? What are your core skills?
I studied computer science in college and then pushed some code right after college. And then for the last 7 years, I've just been a product-led CEO.
Gotcha. All right. Well, tell us more about Genies.
Genies, I mean, yeah, it was kind of what I was just giving a precursor to, but, we believe that every single human on earth is going to have an AI avatar, what the market today calls AI companions. And it comes down to like very basic fundamental beliefs, right? It's like, do you believe there's going to be AI people on earth? Typically, everyone's like, yes, like AI people are going to exist. Now, the question then becomes do you believe AI people are going to have a face? Are they going to have a body? Are they going to have a soul, right? Are you going to have like personality and a brain and ability to communicate with you? The answer is like, yeah, like that makes sense. Like, if I'm going to develop an emotional connection with an AI friend, I want to be able to see the friend. I want to interact with the friend. I want to be able to like not just do chat conversations or like assistant related things, but like when I have friends in the real world, we go do stuff together. We go play soccer, we go to froyo, we go play basketball. And so I want to be able to take my AI companion, my AI avatar with me. I want to go play games. I want to use them in apps and so forth as well. So Genies has invested a vast majority of the last 4 years in resources into developing a sophisticated AI avatar companion framework that enables people to be able to create very sophisticated AI companions that are capable of not just talking to you in a very intimate fashion or in a believable fashion, but then also being able to travel with you and co-create with you in games and apps as well. I think, like, long story short, Genies is trying to become the visual layer for all LLMs moving forward.
All right. And so go further on the business model of these AI avatars.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's AIGC is obviously expensive. And so you charge the user up front to be able to generate an avatar or any of the assets that come along with it, whether it's fashion or props and so forth. But then, two, we make our tools available for game developers to be able to generate experiences in games for anybody that has their own AI companion. So we just announced a big partnership a month ago with Unity. Unity is one of the biggest mobile game engines out there. They power 70% of the games today on the App Store. And so you can imagine that these developers getting access to these tools to not just generate sophisticated AI avatar games today, but then also explore what AI games are going to be tomorrow. They're going to pay a certain amount to get access and license those tools. So, we obviously make money on that. And then the third facet, which is actually like the most, the highest growing facet, is the microtransactions that we make on people interacting with these AI companion avatars. So, you can imagine like charging a user to be able to talk to an AI avatar, if it's a celebrity or if it's existing IP, right? Like think of like the biggest IP that out there. Let's say it was like Mickey Mouse. Having a fan being able to talk to an AI version of Mickey Mouse on a one-on-one basis, they're going to be able to charge quite a bit, because not only does Mickey Mouse, represent Mickey's personality per se, but it also represents like, global memory and understanding my girlfriend, my dog at home, knowing if I got in a fight at school that day. And you could start to see how, an individual existing IP as an AI companion avatar can now develop a number of unique one-on-one relationships. Whereas today it's been Mickey Mouse posting on Instagram or Mickey Mouse posting on, tweeting and sending the same piece of content to 200 million people versus let me unlock 200 million unique one-on-one relationships. So you can charge on a micro basis in every single one of those instances.
Now, so you guys have certainly gotten a lot of attention with your business model. You recently completed a Series C round. You've raised 200 million to date with some really big investors. How have you pulled that off?
I think like a very pure vision and good tech that we've built along the way. But it goes back to, I think, what I was saying at the very beginning of this, which is, it's been inevitable that AI avatars are going to represent the future of communication. Existing IP, whether you're a celebrity or an artist or an athlete or just a character like the Mickey Mouse example I just gave, or you're just a normal person like Akash, everybody's going to have an AI version of themselves. And there's going to be brand new IP, brand new artists that are going to be generated as AI personalities from the bottom up, right? The obvious thing is, of course, you need to be able to see them. And so Genie's investing in a game ready asset avatar framework makes a lot of sense. The question, however, has been, okay, 6 years ago, this was, AI was not in the place where it is today. Mixed reality is not in the place where it was today. So like the question was, 6 years ago, everybody's sitting there, investors, for example, are sitting there saying, no, we totally believe this is going to be the future, but like the far future. So we know that you need to start working on that stuff right now, because it takes a long time to build out all this tech. It takes a long time to be able to build out the company and the stature. How are you going to attract the right cohort of users and traction every step of the way when the mass world is not ready to be able to have these, right? And so our first place where we started was celebrities, because we knew that that was going to be a place where we could have a lot of success out of the gates. So you can imagine like Justin Bieber or Cardi B or Rihanna having their own genie that they could use to showcase on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat as their almost alter ego and second identity that people could fall in love with as their own IP, right? When AI, of course, came around, now we can start to give these avatars personality at scale. But it just has been a multi-year effort of being able to layer on traction of cohorts at a time. But yeah, I think like, when you look at the people that have invested or gone on the company, you have Bob Iger. Bob Iger, of course, is uh, if there's somebody that believes in characters being required in order to build an emotional connection with you, he's obviously had experience at Disney. Mary Meeker, who has been incredible. And, she's predicted X amount of trends over the past 50 years or so. She's been awesome. And then you have Egon Durbin of Silver Lake. And so these are just like institutions that have no business really investing in Genies that early. But if you ask them, it's because they'll typically say the vision is very pure. They care exclusively about how do they deliver this to the masses when it's all said and done. And it's a very complex offering. So if a team is going to get it done, is probably going to be Genies, just considering their domain expertise in this very specific niche for this long. Like, I think there's a huge mismatch between how big everybody talks about how AI companions are going to be and how they're going to represent the interface and the UX for the internet moving forward, and how many people are actually building in the space. Like, there's like only us in the private sector, right? So the opportunity is big and we have the domain expertise. And I think investors recognize that.
Well, tell us about your software engineering team and how you manage them and how you go about that. You got to have some smart people working on cutting edge stuff here.
Yeah. We're close to 100 people. Out of 100 people, like 85 of us are probably technical. However, you would be pretty surprised at, I think, the types of engineers that we have. Like, we have obviously we have a decent sized ML team. We have a technical avatar team, so like technical artists, and being able to combine all these different types of engineers for one unified output of a product is no easy work, right? And so I think the management has been actually very much like, okay, what's the balance between the R&D work that we're going to do for the avatar capabilities, and then also being able to productionize those different assets at scale for some of our users, right? And so the breakdown of the team is we probably have like, out of the 85 people, we probably have half on avatar tech itself. And then we have the other half on productionizing all of the tech that we've built on the R&D front and delivering it as a developer kit.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What are, you're a young guy, but it looks like you've accomplished a lot. For those who are just listening on Apple or Spotify and can't see the background, your office has a big warehouse, Silicon Valley feel with a couple of huge slides behind it. Looks like fun. What are some brutal lessons you've learned in your journey so far?
There's been a number of them. I think like probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, y- and I would say like this is probably one of the lessons that I feel like at the time it felt completely appropriate slash like the right way to be executing the business. But over time, like, of course, like you want to make sure that you take those learnings and you apply them to the next, because it's a good test of your gut intuition actually matching reality. But we made actually a decision after our Series C for like around like maybe like a year or so to not meet with anybody in media, meet with anybody in the press, and just go quiet for around a year or so. And I think there was a decent amount of opportunity that we could have maybe actually snagged if we decided not to make a move like that. And so I think like, look, here's what's key, I think, for anybody that's like a founder, is that you want to be in, you want to make sure that the company is in heads down sheer execution of the work. Like, I think that's like really important, right? Like, block out as much noise as you can for them. However, you as a CEO need to be consistently promoting and being able to attract, especially for a product like us, right? Like, a product like us is a breakthrough product that's supposed to be representing to the world why AI avatars are going to be needed, and start to bring on Trojan horse users slash innovators to be able to leverage that tech. And so, I feel like that year that we decided not to do that ended up being quite tough, because then you feel like you're in a shell, like you're in your own world for a little bit. So the more that you can go out on market and then be able to pull other people's opinions and keep testing with them, and the faster your roadmap is going to get to a high accuracy vantage point.
Gotcha. What are some of the biggest technical challenges you're facing now?
A number of them. So I think like probably the one that I get the most excited about, but we have to wait for more research, is, when you're talking to an AI avatar, there's a few different components to it. There's what it looks like, there's the brain, there's the behavior, and then there's the ability for the avatar to not just chat, but to also go play with you as well. And that kind of represents like a real friend, right? Like, if I'm like 16 years old and I'm hanging out at my house and I'm chilling with my buddy James, right? We don't just sit across the table and we just talk to each other back and forth. It's like when I'm 16, it's like we go do stuff. And so, and also like James has, each time that James is talking or moving, he has certain mannerisms. He's expressing himself. If he's saying something in a happy way, he's smiling. If he's saying something that's, sad connotation, he's frowning. And then the brain, of course, like, as I have this conversation back and forth with James, he remembers everything that I'm saying and vice versa. And so we feel like we're, the looks part of it. So like you being able to be any avatar that you want to be, we're good there. On the brain side, good there. On the play side, great there. On the behavior side, we're good there. But what I really want to be able to nail is autonomous and personalized behavioral development. So what that means is, as a human, you develop new mannerisms and new behaviors and new ways to express yourself the older you get based on the experiences that you have. We want to make it so that if these are autonomous AI avatars, the more that I talk to my avatar, which I'm giving it data based on my personality and how I'm communicating, as well as the surroundings that are around my avatar, you will watch it kind of grow into its own human. It'll develop new behaviors and new mannerisms and just become its one of avatar, very similar to how, as a human on Earth, you're like a one of one of your copy. So the behavioral aspect and creating net new movements and net new animations based on your LLM, I think would be awesome. But I think that's still going to take us at least a year.
So, in current state, are your avatars with you on a phone, on a computer, on an iPad? Give us some more of the vision here.
Well, yeah, it's fun, but we invested in something called a native avatar framework, which means that you can bring your avatar with you from iOS and Android, and is also compatible with Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, and also WebGL.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Interesting. So, talk about how AI comes into play with how you guys are building these, with the consumer side of this. I mean, you're certainly at the cutting edge of AI here, to say the least, but give us some more perspective.
Yeah, so I think like the AI generation on the 3D asset itself. So whether it's the avatar, the clothing, but then there's also the personality, right? So it's like, how do you train the brain of an existing IP, whether it's, a character IP or an artist IP? How do you like create the actual asset itself, right? So generating an avatar, the fashion, how can you influence the gameplay when you're generating games? All of this stuff uses AI. I mean, like, you'd be pretty tough. It's tough to imagine a tools company that is not leveraging AI as one of its core tenants to either develop or create whatever the product is of question.
Do your avatars, how do you envision that being something in the business world, like an assistant or a team member outside of kind of the celebrity or gaming aspect?
So I mean, like, look, I do think that eventually an avatar is going to cover every single use case on Earth. Like, I think mobile apps are going to be deprecated, and instead of like going and tapping on a mobile app and you enter the typical UI and UX, eventually when everybody's wearing like AI glasses, instead of you pulling up apps, you're going to talk to characters. Like, I do think that characters are going to represent the UI and UX of the internet. I don't think that we're there anytime super soon, right? Like, that is predicated upon AI glasses, which is still some time away. And in the meantime, I think the use cases are going to be the most interesting are entertainment AI use cases. So you could imagine like me, if I want to build a social relationship with a character, that to me feels like the most likely thing that a kid will enjoy. Now, does it preclude you from being able to use an avatar for assistant based stuff? No. Is it as required? No, right? It's like, it just feels like if you're trying to build an emotional attachment with an AI personality, an avatar can play its biggest role there. An avatar feels a little bit more like an ancillary in other use cases, however. Until you get to a place where an avatar fully solves the concept of presence, but that requires a new long form factor. And I think like the glasses piece is at least 5 to 7 years away when we have a decent amount of the world using it.
Gotcha. What would you say is the good, the bad, and the ugly of raising multiple rounds of funding, maybe from the lens of people who haven't done that before?
The actual form of raising or like the result of the raising itself?
How it alters your business and your responsibilities, and from a CEO founder perspective.
So I would say that the benefits, of course, like the good is, yeah, the more resources, the more you get to build and the greater output of like what you're able to push out there on market, right? So I think that one's quite obvious. I feel like the bad, or I wouldn't even say the bad, maybe the medium case is, yeah, like, if you scale your company, then there's a lot more people to convince of a certain decision versus if you're 5 people versus 100 people, right? So I think that's like something important to note is that your agility, no matter how fast you want to move, your agility will slow it down because you have more stakeholders that require buy-in order to do something if you want to create a healthy and self-sustained business. The lack of agility, of course, is the is any founder's, I think, like worst nightmare because like you want to like move as quickly as possible. But I think the ugly can be if when you have that amount of capital, you don't you want to make sure that you're as the expectations and the expectations of what success actually really has to be increase dramatically, right? And I don't know, to be honest, like I wouldn't call it an ugly, I would just call it a reality. So there's like the good and then there's I think all of it, even like the fact that you get more resources to build more stuff, it's just all reality. I wouldn't say there's like good and bad. And the reality is like expectations are super high. You brought us some really awesome people. And this isn't one of those things as much anymore where it's like two friends in a garage. We're going to throw something at the wall. If it doesn't stick, so what? And like, then we're going to go do our next thing or whatever. It's like, no, like this is a huge swing and a big bet by a lot of awesome people. And so, we want to make sure that we can get this right and that there is intensified pressure, of course, in order to make sure you get it right. So, yeah, I think those are like three realities of fundraising.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Akash, appreciate you getting uncensored with us today. You certainly have some exciting things you're working on. What's some no BS advice you have for tech leaders out there trying to build, scale, or even just survive in this crazy market?
No BS advice. I would say, yeah, like I think entrepreneurship has been romanticized to a fault. I was like, the reality is that you have to sacrifice most things in your life. Like, I'm talking like family, I'm talking kids, I'm talking school, anything extracurricular. Like, you will have to sacrifice a vast majority of it. I would say goodbye to most of your close ones for a while. Um, and number two, like I would very much think of this as like a lifestyle change. It's not a job. It's a complete lifestyle adjustment. So, if you want to have success, I think like sacrifice is going to be at the highest, is going to require the highest order that you can give it.
Awesome. Akash, thank you so much. Appreciate that. You coming on. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, I'm going to work with Akash and create some avatars to give to your competitors and give them the edge they're looking for. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.